There's going to be a replay
Hello?
for this, Jason?
It will be a replay for it. Just hit the record button. So it will be a replay for this as well. So,
Okay, great.
So everybody, thank you for getting on the call tonight. We will be talking about, tonight we're talking about COVID-19 and the issues and opportunities for property owners and mortgage borrowers. Tonight we do have a special guest, Walter Brown, who's going to be talking. But first we want to identify our sponsors for the call tonight. One is the Urban Financial Services Coalition. I always say it's a group of bankers, financial advisors, wealth managers, everybody who's in the financial services industry. And we do three things. One is we teach financial literacy in the community. Number two, get more of us in the financial services industry. And the third thing is help you move up that corporate ladder or expand your practice. And the other sponsor is Matthews Financial Insurance Solutions. We help people with their tax strategies, retirement planning, where we specialize in working with people who come across a windfall of money, either through an inheritance settlement, sale of real estate, so on and so forth. And tonight we have Mr. Walter Brown, president of WB Solutions, and our past national president of the Urban Financial Services, Mr. Brown.
Hello.
First and foremost, I want to ask you, what do you see that's going on in the real estate market during this whole COVID-19?
Okay, Jason, thank you. I'd like to say that, first of all, thank you for having me on the call. Secondly, and if somebody's got a dog back there, you might want to mute your line because we are recording the call. However, I want to also thank the Urban Financial Services Coalition for the opportunity to partner on this phone call. As you mentioned, Jason, I had the opportunity to serve as international president with that organization back in 2013. And it gave me the opportunity to network with people across the country, in Canada and Africa. And it really gave me an opportunity to get a more widespread view of what's going on. What's happening with the real estate market right now is that we've taken, okay, there's someone needs to mute their phone. There's a noise like a truck in the background. Can you mute that, please? Everyone should mute their phone, actually. Let me ask you to do that so that we can have a clear transmission. So the real estate market's taking a punch, and we're like that boxer, you know, we've been rocked, and we're trying to figure out what's coming next. Jason, there is a slide that I would like to ask you to put up. It's slide number 1. And that slide, let me know when that's up, Jason, because I'm not able to see. Okay, thank you. Slide number 1 is some detail on a situation report from the World Health Organization. And I pulled this up because this is an old situation report from March 12th. And if you look at the right side at the top where it says situation and numbers, this is a situation report.
Mr. Brown, let me see if I can find it. I did not get that slide from you owing the world national debt. I didn't get another slide from you.
Okay, all right. So take that one down, please, Jason.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I may have transmitted the wrong information to you. Let me say that this slide will be posted on the Urban Financial Services Coalition Facebook website by midnight tonight for your reference. But what this slide is a report from the World Health Organization. And they did an assessment of COVID-19 infections on this particular day, March 12th, 2019. And their report was that globally, there were 125,000 confirmed cases, 125,048 confirmed cases of COVID-19. Now, this illustrates how fast and virulent this disease is, because as you know from news reports right now, here on April 21st, we're at over 2 million. So it's gone from 125,000 to over 2 million in about 35 or 40 days. Some people say, well, now you're getting more testing, so you get a better idea of what's going on. Yeah, that's true, but this thing still has multiplied drastically. And so if we were to look out to this point next month, if this continues to grow at the same rate, there could be over 20 million cases globally, with the resulting deaths, the overwhelm of the health system. So from a real estate standpoint, folks in real estate are looking and going, okay, what is going to be the next? May is a date that we're all looking at, and we're thinking in the month of May, we're going to see some real telling action about bondholders who are not making their debt payments on their bonds, real estate investment trusts that are having problems with liquidity, property owners who are having trouble collecting rents and having trouble meeting their debt payments, large property owners, you know, you're talking about owners of 8,000, 10,000, 20,000 apartments and up, as well as small property owners who are going to be having problems because maybe the job that they had in the service economy or in their business has been closed down, and they're running out of money. So this is a big deal at this time in the real estate industry. The National Association of Realtors came out with a report on the month of March, and they said that the last 2 weeks of March, new listings were down by 47% over the same period the year before. So there definitely is a drop off, and realtists, members of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, and realtors, members of the National Association of Realtors, are really working to be resourceful in showing properties for sale using virtual tours, Zoom and other technology to try to keep the market going. At the same time, with regard to real estate finance, there's a whole category of lenders that have stopped lending. They have said, whoa, we want the dust to settle before we start putting more money out that we've got to come back to get. And these are particularly the lenders, the investors in what's called the non-qualified mortgage space. And so these are lenders who do the loans that are not FHA, not VA, not Freddie Mac, not Fannie Mae, not Ginnie Mae. This is the private label market, which has provided a lot of liquidity for more creative financing that was needed. Probably about 35% of the mortgage market in the 1 to 4 unit category is shut down right now. And that's a big hit to the financial services market. On a large scale, with regard to big multifamily units and things of that sort, FHA and HUD are about the only games in town at this moment. Everybody else is taking a step back, and they're not taking any new business for the moment. Excuse me. And I'm talking about, in that case, with the large multifamily insurance companies, large real estate investment trusts, investment banks. They're taking a timeout, generally speaking. That's where the real estate market sits at the moment. And in addition to that, there's a way that I might frame my answer to that, Jason, in terms of what's happening in the real estate market. And by the way, Jason, if I may digress, you know, I'm an old guy, so my mind comes and goes. I want to thank you, Jason, for being president of the San Francisco Bay Area chapter of the Urban Financial Services Coalition. We appreciate that you're taking a stand for working in the community in helping empower the community with financial services knowledge and consumer awareness. So I just want to recognize you personally. Somebody else on the call, Ola Trulove, our national president. I want to recognize and thank her as well for taking a stand, because without you guys, we really don't have a voice, a unified voice, and that's important. But let me go back again now to talking about this real estate thing. Jason, you asked me a question, and let me ask you a question. Do you have that slide that I sent that has the World Economic Forum, the world's $80 trillion economy in one chart with the globe, and it's got the United States on the right in pink, and then China, Japan,
I do
United
have
States,
that.
Asia. Okay, can you put that up?
We have it up. Whoops. Okay. Yes, sir. We have it up.
Okay. So one of the things that we do at the Urban Financial Services Coalition also is we look at what the central banks are doing globally, and what's happening in money flows globally. As you all know, the Central Bank of the United States is kind of the controlling central bank for the world. Bank of England, Bank of Canada, and all the others, they kind of follow the lead of the central bank of the Federal Reserve. This particular illustration shows the world's $80 trillion economy in one chart. So you can see how connected we are. And you see how large the United States is as compared to the others. This contagion creates a real risk, COVID-19, to the real estate market, because if it continues to spread and it continues to grow at the rate that it's growing, it will continue to paralyze. It will not just have us shut in and self-quarantining, we'll be in our sick beds or dying. And so there's a need for us to get it under control. And remember, we don't have adequate testing yet in the United States. We don't have adequate testing around the world. We don't have a vaccine yet. And so again, in the real estate industry, whether we're talking about corporations that are doing investing in real estate or financing in real estate, all these folks are pretty much working remote now. When we're talking about inspectors, workers, some of them put themselves at risk by going into these buildings, into these units doing work, and others, they have the luxury of not having to do so. So the game is changing. Things are really in flux right now, and we're trying to find, there will be a new normal, and the new normal will not be what we've had in the past. There's going to be a need for us to learn technology, to learn some coding, and this will help us to interact on our mortgages, on our real estate investments, on our new opportunities to buy. But let me go to a different piece of this now. When you're talking about what's happening in the real estate market, let's break it down to the average consumer, the citizen. Right now, folks are sheltered in place. Our normal points of reference have changed, and we've got choices to make, right? I mean, we've got a house that we own, and let's talk about that. We've got a house that we own. We're going to keep making the payments on it because we like living there, unless it's free and clear. And if it's free and clear, we're still going to pay for taxes and insurance to maintain control of it and to carry on. A large majority of people in the United States still have mortgages. They owe on their property. And so in football, some people say defense wins games. And so one of the first things that a homeowner has to do is think about their defense, you know, their protection in terms of their financial stability. And that's where good financial planning comes in. That's where having a good lifestyle and regimen comes into play. That means being calm, living healthy, realizing that cash is king, maintaining one's credit. And if one's credit is not good, working on cleaning one's credit. and preparing for a 12 to 24 month slug out here with regard to this recession that's starting to wash over the economy and the battle with COVID-19. So a homeowner might look at their financial situation and with their mortgage in particular, and they may decide, you know, my rate's at 4%. I think I want to get a 2.75 or a 3% interest rate and lock it in now so that my payment is lower and easier to carry. And maybe I'll take some money out as a reserve as well. That takes me just to an aside. There was an interview that some of you probably have seen online with the CEO of Morgan Stanley Investment Bank. And the CEO of Morgan Stanley Investment Bank was talking about how a lot of their corporate clients are going in and taking out cash out of their cash advance lines now so that they'll have it in the event of a rainy day. A lot of these corporate customers remember 2009 when a lot of the investment banks and banks took away those lines from them, and so they were left unexpectedly short on reserves. And so the CEO of Morgan Stanley said that, hey, I'm having a lot of conversations with many of these large corporate heads about whether they really need to take the money out or not. And I think homeowners need to think about that from the same standpoint, from a defensive standpoint. Do you have enough cash to go 18 to 24 months? You have a job now, that's good, but what if there is a layoff, or what if there's a furlough? You know, in many states, being a government employee is viewed as a very stable, safe job. But during the 2008 to 2009 recession, you remember a lot of those employees got furloughed. I mean, I had people come to me who were members of the Secret Service who had their hours reduced, and they were dealing with financial challenges. And not just financial challenges, but the challenge of keeping their top secret clearance. And so nobody is really immune. You know, defense wins games. So refinancing is one thing that a person should have on their list. Another thing that a lot of folks are looking at is this matter of forbearance that's been announced, where you can call in to or communicate with your lender, and if that loan is an FHA loan, a Fannie Mae loan, a Freddie Mac loan, or a VA loan, they generally will give you a 90-day payment forbearance. Ask for 6 months, ask for 12 months, advocate for yourself, speak up, be assertive. We think that it's important as well to be organized and efficient in communicating with your mortgage lender. There are specific tactics that we recommend that people use, and those tactics will also be posted on the Urban Financial Services Coalition Facebook site. And Jason, I know you'll probably have those as well for people to look at. But I'm going to just hit on those at a high level right now. Again, what's happening in real estate? Well, let's talk about that homeowner and what the homeowner's choices are right now. If you got a job, take care of that job. Hold on to it with both hands. Also look at developing alternative sources of income. And there are a number of things that people can do while shut in to develop alternative sources of income. So we think that that's an important piece as well. Now, the tactics when talking to a lender, a mortgage servicer, about forbearance or about deferment are, first of all, we would suggest keep a written record of all your conversations. Remember how when you were in math class and you always had this spiral binder that all the pages were connected together, and every time you took notes in class, everything was in a sequential order? Get a spiral binder, keep your notes in one place. That's golden, because the lenders are going to lose track of their conversations with you. They're going to lose track of the information you sent to them. And here's one thing that you should know about what's happening with lenders right now. they just got hit with a tsunami. They don't have the staff to handle all these phone calls. Yesterday it was announced that mortgage lenders have granted over 50 million deferments so far. So in our conversations with mortgage lenders, we're talking to people, and it sounds like they don't even know how to spell payment, some of them. And so you really have got to protect yourself and not rely on them to capture your information, to capture your request, and to do what's best for you. They're going to do what's best for them, and you've got to do what's best for you. And so each time that you speak with your lender, keep a written record of the date and the time, the name, first and last name of the representative you're talking to. If they won't give their last name, their ID number. If they don't give their ID number, their location. Keep a specific written record. Be specific about what you want. I am asking that my payment be deferred for 12 months and put at the end of the loan. Now, somebody might say, 12 months, that's ridiculous. Well, you don't know, and you're definitely not going to get it if you don't ask for it. You ask for 12 months, maybe they counter with 6, maybe they counter with 3. But that's the beginning of the conversation. This is a negotiation. This is not a, please, will you give me this? Thank you very much. This is a negotiation where you are asserting your rights as a citizen. And that's something that a lot of consumers forget about, that you have rights. And so be specific about what you want, the payment, dollar amount, and then follow up in writing with them so that you have a record of the conversation and they have a record of the conversation, because later you may need that. And what do I mean by later? Well, it may be that they tell you 3 or 4 different times to please resend in your request. Well, you've got a record of those times where they've dropped the ball. Now, that's a problem. And as you will see in the article that we're posting at the Facebook site, it's a problem because mortgage lenders have an obligation to perform professionally and competently in the public realm. Just like a person driving an automobile with unsafe brakes, they're going to get pulled over, that car's going to get confiscated. The same thing with mortgage servicers. They have an obligation to operate in a professional and competent manner. And when glitches are popping up, they're losing information. The person's on the phone can't find what you had in the conversation from a week ago. They're not really interested in hearing your needs. There are other entities that you can go to that will be interested in these lapses on the mortgage servicer's part, and that mortgage servicer may face consequences. So what does that mean? That means that you, the homeowner, you, the consumer, now you've got some leverage. Now you've got some control in the conversation as to what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing. Those entities are listed on that piece that we're going to post on Facebook quickly. The Better Business Bureau is a outside entity that is very interested in how mortgage servicers are or are not servicing their customers. The Consumer Finance Protection Bureau is another entity that it used to be very effective at taking care of the needs of consumers. Here in the last 3 years, with the political winds changing, sadly, they've been neutered to a large extent, but they should be also included in the conversation. Your state Department of Financial Services Oversight, your state Department of Financial Corporations is another agency that is interested and will examine and look for deficiencies in how you're treated. The Federal Reserve, the different Federal Reserve banks have a community development department that will also make a note of this. And when you start identifying problems inside professional organizations, they don't want to be identified. That's when they've got to start answering official inquiries from outside supervisory or advocacy organizations, and that costs them a lot of money. And so that's going to make them come to the table a lot quicker, we found, to find out what you want and to work with you. The loan modification is another option that people will be looking at, and you know there's a whole history around those from 2008 through 2013. Those can be excellent tools to hold on to a property and to get better and safer terms. And then there's also the matter of it may be time to sell, right? After looking at the options of refinancing or forbearance or deferment or loan modification, selling either all or a portion of the ownership of one's property may be.
What do you mean portion? Hold on, let me not pause you. What do you mean portion of it? Can you please explain?
Yeah, I was going to say too that it may also mean bringing in roommates, right? House hacking, as some people call it, to bring in additional income to help with the monthly payment. But selling a portion, and let me also say too for this call that the opinions that are being expressed on this call are mine. They are not the opinions of the Urban Financial Services Coalition. Let me say also that this call, I'm not attempting to offer legal or accounting advice. You should see your attorney or tax advisor for details. And what I mean by selling a portion of the ownership is, let me give you let's talk about examples. I mean, some people say, well, I just can't fathom giving up my house. This is my castle. But sometimes we may need to bring in a partner, maybe a family member, and do a separate private contract and sell them 10% interest, 20% interest, 30% interest, 40% interest, whatever you agree upon. And their payment could be giving you X number of dollars in a lump sum payment and paying a percentage of the monthly cost of the payment, taxes, and insurance. You know, big companies do that all the time. Back in the old days when Chrysler was run by Lee Iacocca, they were on their knees about to go out of business, and they sold their tank division. They built military tanks. They sold that to get cash to keep operating. And then later they were able to buy it back. And so we as homeowners, you know, we've got to think about what we're doing from a business standpoint. And we've got to be cold and dispassionate. And that's the challenge, to take the emotion out of this. We've got to be cold and dispassionate. And you know, that really comes down to having a healthy foundation as well. That, you know, again, going back to, are you getting your sleep at night? You know, are you drinking enough water? Are you exercising? You know, are you eating green? Who is in your circle? Who are the people around you? Do you have smart, progressive people who can bring you ideas? It's like that saying, right? If I'm the smartest one in my group, I need to find a new group. And that's definitely the case right now. So with regard to selling, Jason, does that answer your question, or did you want more?
Yeah, that does answer my question. But you know, you're talking about getting helped out, but did the government put a 90-day moratorium for people if they're behind on their mortgage right now? Or can't pay?
Say again?
But did the federal government put a 3-month moratorium for people if they can't pay right now? Did that get announced for like the month of April?
If people request it, and
so it's not automatic.
It's not automatic. If people request it, and there are cases where people request it, and the mortgage lender says we're not part of that program. There's about 35% of the home mortgages out there that are not bound by that presidential declaration in the private label market. So no, you don't take anything for granted. Go request specifically what you want. Advocate, be assertive. It's not automatic. The other piece of this is in the mortgage industry, there's a lot of talk among the owners of the mortgage companies about the fact that the government came out very quickly in offering this 90-day forbearance arrangement without looking into all the details. And there's one fellow, you might look him up, his name is David Stevens, and he is the former president of the Mortgage Bankers Association of America out of Washington, D.C., has his own consulting firm now. He worked in the Obama administration during the mortgage crisis. And one of the points he keeps making is these mortgage lenders, when people skip their payment, these mortgage lenders still have to take money out of their pocket and send it to the investor. And so there's going to start being some bankruptcies after about 90 days with these mortgage lenders who are not covered under Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, or VA. So it's not automatic. And again, that's why it's so important that, you know, when we're talking with our lender, we keep notes. You know, you've got the option to use the computerized system. The problem is, if you go into the computerized system, you got to be really sure to take screenshots and you make sure you've got a record, because if their system does not capture your conversation, you're going to be out in the cold by yourself.
Now, Walter, you know, a lot of us are saying, hey, you say, I'm low in cash right now. I'm in California in the Bay Area. Equities went up great. You're talking about refinancing, but I hear Chase, you know, increases credit scores to 700. And I know that you're talking about banks are tied up. Where can I go, or where should I go, or where can I get the money to possibly refinance? If you're saying that I might need to look at getting cash if I don't have no cash reserves right now, but I have all this wealth in my home.
Well, you know, that's a good point, Jason. Very, very good question. And that's where having a team in your Rolodex as a homeowner is going to be important. And so we say that every homeowner, while understanding that defense wins games, you've got to have play defense. Every homeowner should have in their Rolodex 2 or 3 mortgage loan officers that they can call and ask for information about loans or what the market is doing, or do some brainstorming. They should also have 2 or 3 realtors who they can talk to about the value of their property, what's happening in the marketplace, and also offense. You know, there's going to be property opportunities that are coming up right now. We think that market values are going to drop anywhere from 10 to 40%, depending on where you are in the country. And so having good realtors on your team, they're going to be able to bring you opportunities, information, high-level conversation that will help you to think strategically. We also believe that a person should have a good lawyer on their team. As an example to your question about selling a property, or a person selling part of the interest in their property so that they can keep control of it. Well, there should be a written agreement for that sale, and it should be a complete written agreement that covers things like the price, what's being purchased, who has what responsibilities for what happens in the event that one of the individuals gets sick, how the money will be transmitted. And that's where a lawyer is important to review that agreement to make sure that problems are minimized later. Also, a CPA or an enrolled agent or a good bookkeeper. We believe that you know, any of these people are going to be able to help that person who says, well, my credit score is not what it should be. your loan officer is going to say, okay, well, here's some companies that will do that loan with your score as it is. Or here are a couple of companies that you can talk to that will help you clean your credit to raise your score. So that's where you go to your team for support and to develop solutions for action.
Now, Janet, go ahead. It seems like you have a question.
Yes. Hi, Walter. It's Janet Johnson.
How are you, Janet?
I'm doing well. Thank you for your providing the knowledge for us that we can go out and share with others. Questions about the forbearance, and I understand that it's only kind of almost automatic if it's a federally backed mortgage. And we're dealing with that in Richmond. We're having to answer a lot of questions. People are really totally stressed out. So how would an individual find out if the mortgage is federally backed? That's one question. And the other question is, will the lender look for to verify that the property mortgage holder has a need to get the forbearance, or are they just walking to the table to get it because it's available? So do they have to prove need, like I lost my job or my income is down? So those are the two questions I have.
A person can find out if their loan is federally backed by calling their mortgage servicer and asking them, is my loan a Fannie Mae loan? Is it a Freddie Mac loan? Is it an FHA loan? Is it a VA loan? And am I automatically entitled to the forbearance? It's a question that the customer service department can answer. What was your second question again?
Oh, so the second question is, will the lender actually ask the mortgage holder to prove that they need a forbearance, to show that their income is down or they've lost their job, or some folks might just want to take the opportunity, if the forbearance is available, to take it in, as you mentioned before, is stockpile some cash.
Okay. The lender is not supposed to ask for a proof of hardship. However, our experience from 2008 through 2012 tells us that they're not going to always play by those rules. And so homeowners will need to be able to advocate for themselves and not be thrown off if they get challenged. I think just the recent experience with the PPP stimulus money shows that financial institutions can sometimes get in their own way. And my example in particular is the PPP funds were intended for small businesses, and then a number of banks started saying, well, wait a minute, we want to see a credit application on these people and see who they are. And that was not the intent of Congress when they passed this bill for this money to get out to these small businesses. There was no intention for hurdles to be put up in that kind of thing. I'd just like to say a private, personal comment that had this been under a previous administration, that would have been immediately corrected, and these financial institutions would have been instructed to release the money as requested. And it's the same thing with these $1,200 individual stimulus checks. If a person has an overdrawn account, the bank is taking money out of those funds before giving it to the customer, and so on. And our current government is not doing anything about that. They're being very silent. In the past, and Janet, you're a member of the coalition. You sat in the room at the headquarters of the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau,
right?
And you saw they were not playing.
Exactly.
And so we are kind of like the foxes in the hen house right now with us. And so people, if they know the answers to their questions and they're not being given the right answers, that's when they escalate their complaint. And that's why the written record is so important. And that's why it's so important for them to know who else is out there that can apply some pressure on their behalf.
Okay, thank you.
Amanda Carr had a question, and then we'll go to you, William White. Go ahead, Amanda. We'll go to William. Oh, go ahead, Amanda.
I'm sorry if I put my hand up, it was by mistake.
No worries. Go ahead, William.
Is this Dr. Amanda Carr?
It is, and I really am not working these controls well.
Okay, I'm looking forward to meeting you in person. Okay, now.
William White, do you have a question?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Brown, for your expertise. I have a question for you. I know you mentioned opportunities for consumers to take the forbearance, or at least see if they qualify for the forbearance for those particular government-backed type loans. You mentioned earlier about negotiation about this aspect of deferral. So if consumers, which I heard a couple of my colleagues say that their banks are not offering deferrals, could they still negotiate with their financial institution if they don't want to take a forbearance, which we understand would have to be paid back in full after the term of the forbearance is up? So what are you seeing within your space in that regard?
Everything is negotiable, Mr. White. So that's the attitude that a consumer has to have if they're advocating for themselves. That's an excellent question that you have. Everything is negotiable. The piece that will be posted on the Urban Financial Services Coalition Facebook site goes through that logic. There is also a piece at the Urban Financial Services Coalition.org, ufscnet.org site under foreclosure resources, which goes through the negotiation mindset, and everything is negotiable. And so just because you call or I call and the bank says, well, we can give you 90 days of no payments and you pay it at the end of 90 days, our response is, well, that wasn't my question. My question was, I am in a financial emergency and I need 12 months of deferred payments, and I need that put onto the back of the loan. So I'll resume making payments on month 13 with one monthly installment and going sequentially from there. That's what I'm asking for. The person laughs, no, we don't do that. Nobody does that. Well, thank you very much. Politely, may I speak to your supervisor? And escalate the request. And you'll end up at a VP or a senior VP. They know if they have the ability to do that or not. And a lot of you who work in corporate America know what I'm talking about. But after you've escalated to that point and you go to the CEO's office and they're still not giving it to you, that's when you go out to the Better Business Bureau. That's when you go out to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. That's when you go out to the Federal Reserve. And by that time, you've got 5 or 6 things that the mortgage servicer has done that have violated your consumer rights. And so now it's not just a matter of you asking a question, but it's an issue of them operating in an unprofessional and incompetent manner, which bears scrutiny. And that's also where escalation calls for using the Federal Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act. And in the Federal Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act, there is a section 6. And we used to call it the qualified written request. It's been reclassified. But what that does, it forces the lender to give you an accounting of all the expenses that have been assessed to your loan, all the payments you've made, how they've been applied, all the key documents to your transaction. Now, what that also does, that file, your loan, now gets targeted so that with the next federal or state audit, they've got to produce your file and show it to the auditors. So if you've got this track record of problems, they really don't want to be seen by the auditors as having made mistakes or having mistreated you or not giving you your due as a consumer, particularly if you've also had your federal state senator make an inquiry on this. So what you're doing now is you're like acting like the big companies. Some people would say, well, that's really kind of funky, what you're saying, taking those kind of actions. But let's face it, during the mortgage crisis, Bank of America sued Citibank. Citibank sued Fannie Mae. Freddie Mac sued US Bank. It wasn't personal, it was business. And so in this case here, Mr. White, you're a citizen, you have legal rights, and you're going to assert those legal rights. You're not going to be just swept away, and you're going to make sure that you're given your due attention. If they got to spend time with you, they're going to try to figure out how to make you go away, how they can please you, how they can take care of you. And so you have a better chance if you apply leverage.
Thank you. Walter, now speaking of opportunities, you said it's going to be 20 to 40% market drop. I've been conservative. I save some money. I see blood in the streets. How can I take advantage of all this?
Watch for opportunities and know, develop your own plan, first of all, Jason. And so what that means is, what are you going to do with your money? Are you going to buy furniture and resell it? Are you going to thrift? Are you going to go out and buy stuff at the thrift stores for $10 and sell it for $50 and build up more money? Are you going to buy furniture? You're going to buy sofa sleepers for $25 and sell them for $200? Are you going to start a lawn cutting service where you hire some people to do work for you and you generate additional income? Are you going to buy automobiles that you flip? Or are you going to buy precious metals, coins, and flip? Are you going to buy distressed properties and flip? You've got to have a business plan first.
I'm talking about distressed properties. When you're talking about real estate to drop 10 to 40%, that sounds like things are going to be on sale. So
Thank you. Okay.
How can somebody like me take advantage of that 10 to 40% drop in the market?
Thank you for refocusing me. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
You go to your team. You go to your realtors on your team and say, I'm looking for a single family residence, or I'm looking for a duplex to fourplex. And, it can need lawn work. It can need painting, stuff like that. I'm not into doing roofs or concrete work, but those are the things I'm looking for. Bring me anything that you see that I can buy for 40% of value. The other piece is, you're out on Zillow looking at properties. You see things that you like, contact a real estate agent, send them an offer, send them a one-page offer. I'm interested in buying your property. I'm interested in buying it for, if you know, and you've got to identify some markets. You've got to identify some neighborhoods that you're familiar with and become expert in those neighborhoods, so that you know what you're doing and you don't get yourself into trouble. And so you have a couple of zip codes that you're focusing on, and as you see things in those zip codes, send the agents offers, one-page offers. And there's a number of books out in the marketplace right now that you can read to become more informed about how to do this, and they have samples of the offers as well. Again, you want to have your lawyer involved in all of these things that I'm talking about on this call. And you want to have your CPA involved as well. But you got to get out there and get your hands dirty. Start making offers. Start talking to people.
All right. Thanks, Walter. Now, some people might not have the confidence, to ask those tough questions. What can people you think could build those questions that, the confidence to do what you said for mortgage relief? You may sound simple, but a lot of people are emotional. They need coaching through it. How can people build up the confidence to do those steps you're talking about?
Well, there's a number of organizations out there that will help. I know the Operation Hope has an excellent online a support system that they will facilitate those kind of conversations with homeowners. The National Association of Real Estate Brokers has a great consumer advocacy group. The Urban Financial Services Coalition. We have what we call the Mortgage Crisis Task Force, where we coach people. And, these different nonprofit organizations can coach people to a certain point. And then at that point, we may advise a person, okay, you need to bring a lawyer in to handle this piece of it, because, it may be time to file lawsuits or things of that sort. And that's where all those written records are so important, because you got your evidence of what's happened and what's going on. I would also say here that lawsuits are becoming more difficult for consumers these days, as the current president is appointing people to the bench who are oftentimes unqualified and oftentimes anti-consumer and pro-corporation. And so it's going to be harder for us now than it was 2008 through 2011. And, for folks who said, hey, I'm not voting for Hillary, they really voted for this. And it's not pleasant. It's a bitter pill that we're having to swallow right now. And that's Walter's opinion. Okay. But
I just want to say, well said.
Okay. But yeah, so Jason, there are organizations out there. Again, the article that will be on the Facebook site, and also foreclosure resources at ufscnet.org has a list of the different organizations that people can go to for help. But if a person is emotional, they're going to have to look at who their support people are, who their friends are in their life, and they're going to have to rely on them. This is a very personal moment. There's a lot of people in a lot of cities that had houses in 2008, 2009 that are, living in tents on the side of the road now. They got wiped out. And a lot of times it was because they did not know what to do, and they didn't have a support system around them. And so, we might have friends who are fun, but if they're not bringing anything of value to the table in terms of new ideas, new knowledge, we've got to get new friends. It's not going to be easy. I mean, Jason, 2008 through 2011, and Janet, you know this as well as D2 and Ola. I mean, we had people coming into our office. Sometimes they were so nervous, they would throw up right in front of us. We have to give them a garbage can to throw up in. It's very stressful, but that's why each of us, either we're going to have to buck up and look at our foundation. We're going to have to be prayed up, and have our spiritual base together, or we might lose a leg in this one.
Definitely.
And Walter, thank you. You are absolutely correct. And I appreciate you advising and suggesting that people and all the listeners refer to Urban Financial Services Coalition's website, because we are having these conversations so that we can help one another. We have to be informed about what's going on, but we also, as D2 constantly reminds all of us, we've got to be engaged and aware of our surroundings. And oftentimes, people of color, we're a prideful people, and we don't want others knowing our business, or we don't want others understanding a position that we're in, or maybe a mistake that we made, or maybe one that wasn't well. I think that Urban Financial Services Coalition offers a safe space for us to learn how we navigate through these critical times and how to negotiate for ourselves. And if someone needs help with that, then we are here to help them. So thank you so much, Walter, for your presentation tonight about this, because I think it is so valuable right now that we continue to stay very loud that Urban Financial Services is here to help you. And that's what this is all about.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ola. Absolutely. And I'm so glad that we have this network of folks like you're in Kansas City. We've got folks in the DMV area, LA, Seattle, Atlanta, all over the country. And, you know, Jason, the fact that you as president of the chapter in San Francisco used your private platform to give us an international conversation, because there's people on other continents that are checking this out. And we'll be checking it out in the replay. I want to thank you for using your business at Matthews Financial to support this.
No problem, Walter. I know Deborah had one last question before you go. Deborah, what was your question?
My question, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Walter, I believe you said something, and forgive me if I'm incorrect, about you know, during this time, you know, people weren't scared, and you know, they want to pull out. They think about pulling out their 401ks and because they're afraid that they're going to lose it all, as they did in 2008 and 2011. Is that should we go ahead?
Continue, please.
I mean, is this a time that we should be afraid? I mean, somewhat leery, and if so, is there a percentage that we should look at pulling out if that is indeed what we should do?
Okay, thank you for that question, Deborah. That's a good question. And I know that the financial planners on the call, when you said that, their bells rang. So I'm gonna laugh because I know their spidey sense went boom. But anyway, that's a very serious question that you have. We don't think that you should pull out your 401k money. Okay, first of all, that is your asset.
Those negatives sure look scary on those statements, Walter.
Yeah, but so here's the deal. When you look at what people say, you know, Larry Fink from BlackRock, James Gorman from Morgan Stanley, Mohammed El Arian from Alliance Advisors. You look at what they're talking about on Bloomberg and CNBC and other places, they're saying, go with quality. So you may have negatives right now, but if you have made good decisions when you put your money where you put it, then just stay put. If you have put your money in stocks that are in companies that have good fundamentals, and they're doing well right now, they're not in trouble. It's not a Neiman Marcus, you know, like who just filed bankruptcy yesterday. If you've got good fundamentals, then this is the time to be patient, because it will come back, and it will come back even greater than before. Now, that's where another piece of this COVID-19 shelter in place comes into our conversation, because if we get right back out and we don't have accurate testing to know who's infected and who's not, like in China right now, people who are moving around in China, they have to check in where they're going, where their office, what the address was when they go to get something to eat. And then they're regularly tested. That's how they're controlling everything. We don't have any of that here. So we don't know who's with who, how people are getting infected. But we could be at 20 million infections this time next month if we're not careful globally. And that's why the shelter in place, that's why you talk about flattening the curve. It went from 125,000 May 12th to over 2 million April 20th. May 20th, it could be over 20 million if we don't flatten the curve. And that overwhelms the medical system. Then you start having riots. That's when social order is out the window. But going back to your point, we think that if you're invested, review your current asset investment placement with your financial advisor. If you want a second opinion, there are a number of financial advisors in the Urban Financial Services Coalition. You have some of them on your national board who will have a private, confidential conversation with you about where you are. I was referring to taking equity out of one's real estate on a limited basis. That has to be very delicately done. And that's a conversation that has to be a holistic conversation with one's lawyer, CPA, and lender. It's not just, okay, I'm going to take this chunk of money out. The other piece around 401ks and the need to be careful with one's 401k money is we have seen so many times in the past where a homeowner will call their mortgage lender and say, I can't make payments. And the mortgage lender is a bill collector. And they say, okay, do you have money in your checking and savings account? No. Do you have money in retirement funds? Yes. Well, how much do you have there? Oh, I have $250,000. Well, use that. And unfortunately, too often, a person will spend down all of their retirement money. They still don't have their income situation squared away, and the lender still wants payments, and the individual ends up getting foreclosed on anyway. So going back to Mr. White's question, we advocate that you set the pace for what the conversation is going to be. I want 12 months. That's what we're going to talk about. And I'm going to the CEO's office over a period of time if I have to do this. And here are my reasons why. No, I'm not going to just immediately come out of my bank account to you. We're in a national crisis. I know what you as a corporation are doing. I know about the financial assistance that you're getting from the federal government. And you're a wealthy corporation. I want some of that. I deserve some of that. And I'm going to contact my federal senator, my U.S. senator, not state senator, my U.S. senator. And because I send them donations and they know who I am. And I'm going to ask them to look into it and speak on my behalf.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Walter. Thank you for everybody on the call tonight. Here's the contact information for Walter Brown, my information. Also, if you have any other questions, make sure you go on the Urban Financial Services Coalition website as well. I want to thank all you guys tonight for being on the call. Thank you so much. Everybody have a good night. Thank you and have a good evening.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, all. Be safe. Take care.
All right. Good night, everybody. See you next time. Thanks for the information.
All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
All right, Mr. D2. See you later. Bye-bye.